trinle yarngoda pelge drolor zampe zep pande lame shabla solwade Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Utta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Nishasane Karma Utta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om A Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munish Utta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om A Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Utta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Utta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Dhagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksus Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sungi Nawa Tsedo So Tsechi Ningne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshun Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hungi Drubra Chingi Tsoni Sodan Dikdun Shape Tse Dungi Namke Yin Su Lekshun Lapchen Tsoni Yonsu Tsopa Dan Chera Nyedun Changra Chingil Jancho Pargi Ninsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siudru Lekshune Jancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen De La Drubra Chingilo Dagi Lona Chola Chokpa Dan Chomin Samjur Ngemba Shiwad Chodan Tumbe Dede Malupa Beme Lungi Drubra Dorna Tingne Tsira Tamche Techi Pardu Nega Tamche Tu Rese Kemne Lama Kele Tukche Chingi Dala Sikso So Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dachala Chetsun Lame Tuje Rabgong Kodan Sungi Nawa Dralme Tu Nyam Sunyongwe Kesan Toprash Kewa Kuntu Yanda Lama Dan Drame Chiki Pela Longchut Sadan Lamgi Yunte Rabd Dorje Changi Kopa Nyurutob Shoyo Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tudan Dagi Tün Yerme Çiktu Chingi Lo Ama Köke Kudan Dagi Lo Ma Köke Sundan Dagi Nga Ma Köke Tudan Dagi Tün Yerme Çiktu Chingi Shakyamuni Svoha. Sashipe ki chushime to re rabalingash ni de padi sangye shintu mikte ulwarki drokununam dashingla chopar shoyi dam guru ratna mendra la kham niryataya. Sangye chedan tsoge chanam la chancho pardo dani kyaf dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drula pinchira sangye druparashu. Sangye chedan tsoge chanam la chancho pardo dani kyapsuchi dagi chishe gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye druparashu. Sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu dagi chishe gib drola pinchira sangye druparashu. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni, possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Namo alhaye ke da ludan jinke rubonda mikenam ruwa kuinge dranam chi tsampa tamche ke to dagi cheten to tamche ke to dagi cheten. Buongiorno.
Good morning.
Due settimane fa
2 weeks ago, we talked a bit about the importance of the enthusiastic effort, of putting energy in what is not easy, of managing, of getting out of our comfort zone. There is an important aspect that we need to sum with this, and it's the fact that it depends very much on which direction I am putting energy. In Tibetan there are two different words. One word is sundrul and another word is tukdrul, which partly they mean the same thing. That is, putting energy into something that it's not easy. The difference is that tsundru means putting energy in something that it's not easy and that is good, that is virtuous, that is positive, that makes us in a mid-long term, that makes us good. And tukdrul means to put effort into something that it's not easy and that eventually is also not good. And here comes the question, what is good, what is the direction that we should put energy into, because sometimes it's normal that there are some situations where one is putting a lot of energy into, but eventually you're putting energy into something that is not good. And as we have already said many times, we unfortunately have the tendency also of putting energy and being attracted from what is not good for us. And I have asked myself for some time, why? Why, where there is something that is not good for us, we are not able to get away from it, and we keep repeating the dynamics that are not good for us. And even when we go there and ask to someone, to me it has already happened, do you like to meditate? Yes, a lot. What meditation do you do? I do mindfulness meditation, or self-feeling, or for me they've already told me when I do self-feeling in the morning then I feel good every day, all day. Then do you do it every day? No, I haven't been doing it for at least 3 months. Then I ask myself, why? Eventually, why don't we do what is good for us? And do we do what we know it's not good for us? The only reason that I can find, other than the fact of being ignorant, that doesn't solve the question, is that when we are in a state of balance, we are attracted from what maintains and sustains the state of balance. So, for example, when in a relationship between two people there is harmony and balance, then naturally the two people will be attracted from what sustains and maintains the balance. When there is unbalance, we are attracted from what increases that unbalance. So when there is like a fight, then our tendency is to go and get into the fight. There was a doctor, a friend of mine, that said that when a person is sick, is attracted from eating what is not good for that person. So he used to ask to his patients, what do you like to eat the most? And if the patient would answer whatever would it be, maybe the watermelon, then he would say, okay, then first of all stop eating the watermelon. Then I will go maybe and see why it's not good for you, and eventually it's always the case. But we have this tendency of being attracted from what is not good for us, because eventually we are in this state of unbalance. We are not beings that, how can I say, I'm trying to find a word to describe what I want to say. We're not like a unity, as like a solid unity that it's not made of parts. We are made of many parts. We have our own emotions, our own memories, our own projections of the future. Mind is made up of many different ways. Our body is made up of many different ways. We have all our organs. We have 2 hands, 2 legs, and feet, and fingers. We have a lot of parts that are in our body. And one of the characteristics of wisdom of the being is that of being able to recognize the importance of each part, and that each part in its turn is able to give priority to the together to me 2 days ago it happened that I had like a very strong pain in this finger that eventually was nothing else but like I caressed my dog, and to the hair it was attached like something with some spines, and a spine got into the finger. And in the beginning I didn't pay attention to it, but then it started like hurting, and to get it out it was even more painful, and it was quite long. It was like almost half centimeter. But the point is that eventually, for the body, what's the point? What's the purpose of this finger? This one less, this one maybe is more useful. I've seen that as I had to eat and I had to cut, then it was difficult. But aside from this, I was reflecting, like when a small part of the body is sick, is not good, what happens to the rest of the body? It's also not fine. And what does the body do when a part of the body is not right? It takes care of that part. It tries to find a way to solve what is happening. And the case that, according to me, is when this is not happening is when there's like a major danger, So like a threat, danger, so we have like a stress reaction where energy is put into where is the priority to have to take care of the collective. So it has even the capacity of, how to say, sacrifice, so to speak, some parts of the body in order to maintain the good of the collective. That is, there is an awareness that each part is important, but that the collective is more important than each single part. Because if the collective is not working, then also all the parts are not working, are not sustaining themselves. So this makes me think about the herd dynamics of dogs. So for example, when dogs, or those that still live in nature or used to live in nature, it is said that in the herd it's created like a balance, where across them they recognize the different roles, and so what happens is that also female dogs go in heat like once a year, but it happens that they go in heat all together. And
questo andrebbe a togliere e perdere l'equilibrio e alla fine muoiono tutti, non funziona per tutto il branco. Quindi hanno delle regole molto ben precise.
so they have very precise rules, and okay, and for this there is just one female that goes in heat, because otherwise there would be too many puppies and they wouldn't survive because of the food. And for whatever is difficult or not, they all respect it, because for the good of the herd, it's more important than the individual good. Because if the herd is not well, then the individual also doesn't survive. And this is something that it's in the instinct. Once I was in a monastery, and it was like a particular situation. There was a man, very intelligent, very prepared. I remember his face very well. And there was a time where my masters have little time to give me teachings, and they were quite busy with many things, and I was quite young. And I go to Ekplakpala, and I tell him, look, maybe I want to go and have some lessons with this man. And he looked at me, maybe no. But isn't he good? Yes, he's good. Good in the sense that he has a good knowledge, is also a nice person, and then he remembered me that when he explained the fact that when we go and receive the teachings of Dharma from someone, we create a relationship that is quite deep. Then it needs to be maintained in a relationship of trust. So before choosing someone, be careful. And he remembered me, look, we shouldn't only look at the aspects, external aspects of like whether a person is nice or knowledge, but also the deeper characteristics, also moral questions. And without criticizing that man, he told me something that showed me a part of him. When someone is working or has like a job for the collective, in that case the monastery, he said the first characteristic that this person needs to have, and that's what, if it's there, then all the rest goes more or less well. If it's not there, doesn't matter how many other qualities does the person have, then it goes bad. is that the person needs to give priority to the collective rather than the individual. He needs to be able to see that the collective is worth more than himself. And he told me that sentence, and in that case I saw that man that had a role, a responsibility in the community for the collective, but he used that role for some personal benefits, while in that situation he could have used that for the collective. And that remained to me as like a teaching. And what happens is that when we are part of a herd, when we're part of a group, when we're part of, how can we say, an organism, each part of the organism is important for the organism, but together, the collectiveness of the organism is fundamental for each part. When we talk about putting effort, one of the aspects that in the teachings, and the Buddhist teachings particularly inside of the Mahayana vehicle is placed a lot of emphasis on, is that one of the fundamental causes of our suffering is our constant attitude of being auto-referential. That can also be translated as this obsession with self-gratification. The fact that we see and live everything where our priority before everything else is the I and the mine. And what is transmitted and told again in all the possible different ways is that one of the directions that is important is to invert this attitude and to learn to give more importance to the collective rather than the individual, remembering that we are also part of the collective. And so, when we talk about putting effort, there are many different directions where to put emphasis on, but eventually one of the most important ones to get out of the comfort zone is to do that, is to get out of that place where we are so used to be at, that is there where we live each situation, everything through the filter of the I and the mind. We live the different situations where first of all it comes me, then there is like what I think, what I feel, and what I believe that is good for me, what is not good for me. Our point of reference and of judgment and so on becomes the I. The difficulty that I see is that living in a reality that is binary, that is like a perception of reality actually that is binary, our tendency is that we in general divide things, either is this or that. So either it's me or the other. And what we have a hard time to understand somehow is that we are mutually dependent. That I don't exist without the other and the other doesn't exist without me. In other words, if we take, for example, a family, inside of the family, because in order for the family to be well, each member of the family needs to be well. But when a member of the family is not well, then all that also falls on the others. So what happens is that in order for the family to be well, I need to be well, and also the other way around. And so it's something that it's mutually dependent. And what goes even beyond this, and I try to put it into words, it's not very easy, but I try, is that the concept of the individual is an illusion. We have this very strong concept. We have our own rights as an individual, we have the I am, I want. We even have this vision that we can see like also in the marketing, things that we have to do or whatever. Because in order for it to be better, it needs to be customizable. So if I sell you something, then it needs to be what you want, according to how you want, or how I want. And we put a lot of emphasis on this aspect of the individual. Yeah, and this also is part very much of our own social system, where both from the point of view of the commercial point of view, capitalistic, where the individual, the customer, is what theoretically knows the best. Also in the political system, where every individual should have the last word and the choice. I'm not against this system, but the point is that we go and put a lot of emphasis on, in many different contexts, on the part of the individual. When the individual, intended as like an entity, like an autonomous entity that is independent, doesn't exist. I don't know if this is clear. I try to go a little bit deeper on this. Whatever phenomenon it is, like from a macro level, to talking about our own planet or our own galaxy, to a micro level, like a subatomical level, and everything that is in between, included also ourselves. Nothing, absolutely nothing, exists in a way that is autonomous, independent from the complex network of relationships that it has. Whatever exists uniquely in a dependency of all the relationships that it has. It's a relationship, a relational reality. And we can look for this on every possible level. We can go on a subatomical level and on the quantum level. Those would divide until we can, and then eventually we can't find anything that it's there, like on its by itself, that doesn't depend by the relationships. And like this, it's on every other level, and we are in the middle of all of this. And our reality is that we are what we are in the togetherness of the context where we are in. We depend on the context where we are. We depend on all the different relationships in order to be what we are. And at the same time, the context where we are in also depends by us, so we are mutually dependent. And one of the interesting things is that when two phenomena are mutually dependent, we go and analyze, and it's as if they were the same thing. They're not the same thing, but we could say they are of the same nature, because if there is one, there is the other. If there isn't one, there isn't the other. In Tibetan there is a term of the same nature but of different appearances. And the individual is the collective, and the collective are of the same nature with different appearances. Very often we live in this illusion of being autonomous, independent, of being independent from our own relationships, independent from the context, social context, independent from the people with whom we relate with, from the context where we live in, whether it's like family context or like the job or the community or the broader society. The reality is that we are not, from my point of view. And at the same time, the collective, that is, whether this collective is made like from a heart and a hut, whether it's made like from a broader family or like from the working context or a community, sangha, call it however you want, the society in a broader sense, the collective doesn't exist independently from each one of the parts that make it up, and we are one of them. But in order to understand this better, there is something that for me it's very clear, but I have a hard time to put it in words. I try. When there are various parts in the collective, in the togetherness, me plus you
uguale a noi.
equals us.
Se fosse come in matematica,
If it was like in math, in this case 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 plus 1 is greater than 2. Why? Because the whole, when you get the parts together, the result that is called us has more strength, has more possibility, has more qualities than simply all the parts put together. And so, by the time that we are in the same place, but we don't have like a collective identity, it doesn't exist like an us, we have much less strength rather than when an us exists. And this has weight on many different levels. This is something that in the Buddhist teachings, Mahayana Buddhist teachings, it's repeatedly, incessantly. There is also the Guru Puja verse that says, something like, from the moment that the Buddhas work uniquely for the collective good and the childish beings work only for their own being, it's easy to understand what is the distinction between the right or wrong action. And so those who stay there just to think about their own well-being, then they only suffer, and those who think of the collective and of the others, then are doing well. There must be like some effect. It's like once that we were in the Netherlands in this congress with many doctors, and there was a part of like a group of doctors and so on that was very much against this other group of friends of ours, because it was a group that was putting together allopathic medicine with the complementary medicine, and no, they're saying, no, these are lies, these are false things, and so on. And one day we were talking like this, and without going to discuss much, it's interesting to see that when we meet to discuss, those that theoretically are doing the first medicine and are mixing things because they're Chinese medicine and other things in between that are not like the scientific medicine according to those people, and those on the other side that go against them, when they are together, it's interesting to see that those who are against this, that say that they have the true medicine, they are all overweight, they are not well. You can see from their face they are sick, and the other ones you can see them that you look at them that they are well, they are balanced, they have a nice face, and so on. And so sometimes, a bit jokingly, it's not like you need a lot of research, you just need to look people in the face. If you do something and you're well, then you must be doing something right, and the other way around. It's not this the argument of today, medicine or not medicine. The key is in putting together the strength of every aspect. I'm not pro or against one or the other.
Comunque, fatto sta che
But anyway, the point is that in my life I have met many people,
le persone
and
più gioiose
the most joyous people, most balanced
che io ho conosciuto
that I have met
sono sempre state quelle
have always
persone
been
che hanno
those
saputo
people that
dare
knew how to
priorità,
give priority to the collective
saputo
good,
vedere
that were able to
l'altro,
see the other
senza mai escludere
without
se stessi.
ever excluding themselves.
Le persone più
And
sofferenti che io ho
the
trovato
people
fino
that
ad oggi
will be suffering the most that I've ever
sono anche i
met,
momenti di più
or also the
sofferimento che ho
moments
trovato
of the
nell'arco della
greatest
mia
suffering
vita,
that I've found in all the people that I've met,
sono quando c'è
were
un'attitudine
when there was a
forte,
strong
intensa,
attitude,
spesso
intense,
costante,
often constant,
incessante,
incessant,
del io
of
e
the
il
I
mio,
and the mine,
dove
where
il noi,
the
sì,
us,
il noi va bene
yes,
finché
it's
serve
good
a
as
me.
long as it helps
Io
me.
fa bene, posso far parte di
Yes, I
una
can be
coppia,
part
posso
of a
far parte di
couple,
una
I can be
famiglia,
part of
posso
a
far parte di
family,
un
I can be part
contesto,
of
di
a
una squadra di
context
lavoro,
like
posso
a
far
working
parte di una
team or
comunità,
a
posso far
community,
parte di una
or I
società,
can be part of like
qualunque
a
cosa,
society or whatever,
però è
as long
il
as
collettivo che
it's
esiste
the
in
collective that
funzione
exists
di me
in
stesso.
function of me.
E di solito
And
quando si
usually,
vive in questo
when we
modo
live in this
così,
way,
si
eventually
vive
we live bad,
è una lotta
badly.
costante.
It's a constant fight.
E quando noi viviamo in
And
quel
when
modo,
we live in that way,
noi finiamo per
we end up
dividere le cose
by dividing
in tre
things
categorie.
in three categories.
E per le cose intendo dire
And
le
by things, with
persone,
things I
le
mean like people,
situazioni, gli
situations,
oggetti, i
objects,
luoghi, i gruppi,
places, groups,
qualunque cosa, li
contexts,
dividiamo in
whatever,
tre
we divide them
categorie.
in three typologies.
Quello che mi fa
What is
bene,
good for
quello che
me,
mi
what
fa
is
male,
good,
quello
not
che non
good
mi
for
fa
me,
bene,
and
nemmeno
what
quello.
is not neither good
Quello che
nor
mi fa
bad.
bene ho
And so, what is
attrazione,
good for me,
amico.
I have attraction, it's a
Quello
friend.
che mi
What
fa
is
male ho
what is bad, I have
avversione,
aversion to,
indifferenza.
and it's an
Quello che
enemy.
non mi fa né
And what
bene né
it's
male
neither
è
good or bad,
indifferenza.
it's there is indifference. It's neutral,
E noi viviamo all'interno di
and we
questo.
live inside of this.
Quello che di solito noi diciamo i nove
And
oggetti,
what we usually call the
amico,
nine objects. So there is
nemico,
the friend,
indifferenza.
the enemy, and
Poi c'è
the
l'amico
indifference.
dell'amico
Then
che
there
è
is the
amico,
friend of the friend, which is also friend.
c'è il nemico
There is the
del nemico
enemy of the
che è
enemy, which is
amico,
also a friend.
e poi c'è l'amico. Tre.
And then there is the friend.
C'è chi mi fa male, è un
Then
nemico,
there is the
chi
enemy
fa
who
male ad un
hurts me.
amico
Then there is
è
who hurts
nemico,
my
e
friend. Then
l'amico
there
è
is an
l'amico
enemy.
del nemico
And the friend of the enemy, which is
è un
also
nemico.
an enemy.
Chi fa bene al mio
And
nemico
who is good for my
è un
enemy
nemico.
is an enemy.
E poi c'è quello che non fa né bene né male,
And
né
then
al mio amico né al mio
there
nemico,
is who does
indifferente.
neither good or bad to me, to
È
my friend, or
pazzesco
to the
vedere
enemy, that it's
come
indifferent. And it's
si
crazy to
vive
see
in un
how
modo
much we live in a
costante
constant
tramite queste
way through
categorie.
these categories.
E questo non riguarda
And
solo
this is
persone,
not
riguarda
just like
luoghi,
people, but also about
situazioni,
places,
qualunque
situations,
cosa.
everything.
E quello che accade è che
And
vivere
what
in
happens is that
questo
to
modo
live in
è
this way,
estremamente
it's
stanco.
extremely
Stanco.
tiring.
Che poi come se non
Because
bastasse,
as if it was not
quei
enough,
tre
also
attitudini che
these
ci
three
sono
attitudes that are
verso
there towards
tutte e nove
all the
categorie,
nine categories,
che sia amico, che sia
whether
nemico,
it's
che sia
friend or
indifferente,
enemy
quando
or
mi
a
trovo
neutral,
davanti a
when I
qualcuno
am in
che ha di
front
più di
of
me,
someone that is more than me,
rigioisco.
I rejoice.
Quando mi trovo davanti a qualcuno
When
che
I
ha
am in
di
front of
meno di me,
someone who
voglio
has
aiutarlo.
less, then I want to
Quando mi
help.
trovo davanti a
And when I'm in
qualcuno che ha
front
tanto
of
poco di
someone
me,
that
dico ci aiutiamo a
has
risolvere
as much
e
as me, then I
sosteniamoci
say,
l'uno
okay, we
l'altro.
help each other, we
Così
sustain each
funziona?
other. That's how it happens, isn't it?
Non proprio.
No, not really.
Di solito come viviamo? Quando mi trovo
Usually,
davanti a
when we
qualcuno
are in
che ha di
front
più,
of someone who has more,
gelosia,
we have jealousy,
invidia.
we have envy more than jealousy.
Quando ci troviamo
When we
davanti a
are in
qualcuno che ha
front
di
of
meno,
someone who has less, then, oh, how great, I am better than you.
e certe volte
And
faccio anche
sometimes
finta
I
di
even
volerti aiutare, di
pretend to
sapere che
want to
non sono
help you
niente
because I
meno
want to
per
show
te,
you
sono meglio di te.
that I am not more, but I'm
C'è
even more
una gioia
compassionate. But there
nell'ordine
is like a
di
joy, like a
aiutarti.
pride that starts there.
Ti faccio vedere che non
Like I show
solo
you
sono
that not
meglio di
only
te,
I
sono
am
meglio di te.
more beautiful, but I'm also compassionate.
E poi quando siamo davanti a quelli che hanno
And
tanti
when I
uguali,
am in front of someone that has as much as we do, then we have competition.
è stancante,
It's tiring.
è
It's
veramente,
very tiring.
veramente stancante. Quindi uno dei luoghi
And so, one of the places uh,
camminare contro
from is that we have to walk against the current in the process that in Tibetan is called Daxing,
e scambiare se stessi
which
con
means to equal ourselves and exchange
Eguagliare vuol
ourselves with
dire
others,
capire che facciamo parte della
and
stessa
to
realtà.
make us ourselves
Eguagliare vuol
equal
dire la
means to
tua
understand
felicità
that
non
we
è
are
più
part of the
importante
same
della mia.
reality, and that your happiness is as important as my happiness, and your suffering
Come
as
minimo,
important as my
partire dal
suffering,
fatto che
and as a minimum
siamo
to
nella
start
stessa
from the fact
famiglia.
that we
In
are in the
fondo
same
vogliamo
family.
lo stesso,
Eventually, we want the same
abbiamo gli
thing.
stessi
We
obiettivi.
have the same goal.
Che poi,
Whether
no, lascia stare, se no
no,
andiamo
just
avanti.
let's not go there.
Facciamo parte dello stesso. Vedere
We are part
l'altro
of the
come
same, and to
parte
see the
della se
other and
stessi,
being able to see the other, it's partly also to be able to see ourselves
eguagliare se stessi con gli altri.
and
Non vuol
to
dire che siamo tutti identici,
equal ourselves with the other. That doesn't mean that we are all the same. It means that we are part of the same group, that we want the same thing.
siamo
We are
insieme
together,
e perciò se
and
io faccio
for
parte
that,
di un stesso
because I
corpo,
am part of
anche
I'm
se il
part of
cuore guarda il mignolo e dice ma tu mignolo
the
non
same
sei di sto
body.
mondo,
If the heart looks at the heart at the pinky, and then it says, okay,
chi è più importante per il corpo, il fegato, il cuore o il
what's the
mignolo?
importance
Tra cuore e fegato no, direi cuore.
between heart or liver? I wouldn't know what to ask. Maybe I would say heart, but
Immagino che tutti e due sono fondamentali.
I would say that both are fundamental.
L'ultimo a smettere
But
mi
I
sa
would
che è il
say
cuore.
that the last one that is
Però quello
stopping,
che
it's the
succede
heart.
cos'è? Se
But what happens is that
necessito
if they would say the
qualcosa che vede
pinky,
sia il
ah,
cuore
look how great,
guarda
both
il liver e
the
dice tu
heart and
sei
the liver
importante.
are looking at the pinky and they're saying, ah, you're
Facciamo
important
parte
because we're
dello
all
stesso,
part of the together,
dello stesso organismo.
of the same organism.
E dobbiamo saper
And we must
valorizzare
be
questo.
able
Questa è la
to
cosa che
value
viene
this. And this
eguagliare.
is the
Perché
part of
saper dare valore
making equal, that is like to give value to the other.
senza togliere il
And
valore da se
without
stessi.
taking away the value from
E questa è una delle grandi
ourselves.
fatiche.
And this is one of the
Una delle
great
grandi
difficulties,
fatiche che noi abbiamo è che quando noi
that
pensiamo di
when we
dover dare
think
valore
that we
all'insieme,
have to give value to the whole,
abbiamo la tendenza a
then we
pensare
have
di
the
dover
tendency of
sacrificare
sacrificing ourselves.
abbiamo questa cultura del
We have
sacrificio,
this culture of sacrifice,
questa visione
this
nel
vision
quale o
where
io o gli
it's
altri,
either me or the other,
o io o il
it's
noi, e
either
quindi per
the
prendere cura
I
del
or the
noi devo
us. So to take
sacrificare
care
io.
of the us, I need to sacrifice the I. No,
Perché io stia
because in
bene
order
il
for
noi deve
me to
stare
be
bene.
well, also the us needs to
Perché il
be
noi
well,
sta
and for
bene,
the
io
us
devo
to be
stare
well,
bene.
also the I
Alla
needs to
fine
be
siamo
well. And
tutti
so eventually we are mutually dependent. One depends on the other.
ok? In una visione
In
ideale,
an ideal vision,
il noi
the us
dà priorità
gives
a
priority
ogni parte
to each part,
e ogni
and
parte dà
each part
priorità
gives
all'insieme
priority
del
to
noi.
the
A quel
whole
punto
of
funziona.
the us, and at that point it works well.
Molto spesso la
Very
nostra
often
tendenza
our
è io
tendency
non
is to
posso dare
say,
priorità
I
al noi
cannot give a
perché il noi
priority
non
to
dà
the
priorità
us
a me.
because the us doesn't give priority to me.
E il noi dice io non posso
And
dare
the
priorità alla
us
parte perché la
says,
parte
I
non dà
cannot
priorità
give
al noi.
priority to the part because the part doesn't give priority to us.
E alla fine cosa
And
succede?
eventually, what does it happen?
Conflitto,
Conflict,
conflitto,
conflict,
conflitto.
conflict.
E una delle cose che ho
And one of
imparato
the
è che
things that I've learned that for me is fundamental is that each one of us must start from where he can.
è inutile
It's
fare
useless,
di questa
pointless
via
to
fare
stay
quello
there
che va al di
and
là delle nostre
to
possibilità.
say or do what is beyond our possibilities.
Quindi quando
And
tocca a
so,
me,
when it's up to me,
quando tocca a
when
ognuno di
it's up
noi,
to each one of us,
dobbiamo prendere cura
we must take care
di quello che è possibile
of
per
what
noi
is
stessi.
possible for ourselves.
Quindi
And so,
faccio parte di un
I am
insieme.
part of a whole, of
Dov'è che
an
io
us.
utilizzo questa parola noi?
Where do I use this part, this
Sia
word
in una
us?
coppia,
Whether it's
sia in
in a
una
couple
famiglia,
or a
sia in una
family or
società,
a
sia in
working
una società
context or in a
spirituale,
spiritual
sia nella
community
società che
or a
stiamo vivendo,
society in a broader sense.
come esseri umani, come esseri
like as human beings, as living beings, it doesn't matter, whatever level be it, where we put the word us, the us is important for me, and so I take care of the us.
senza che questo
Without
diventi un
this to
sacrificio.
become a sacrifice of myself.
È ovvio che il noi non è
It's
semplice,
obvious that
perché il
the
noi, anche
us
quando è
is
fatto
not
da due
simple
persone,
because
già
even when it's
diventa
made
difficile.
also just from two people it's difficult, so can you imagine?
E cos'è che crea la difficoltà
And
nel noi?
what is it that creates the difficulty in the us?
Perché il noi non è solamente
Because the
fatto di
us is not
insieme
just like
di
how
cose, di capacità, di
some
persone.
forces, some people put together.
Ognuna di queste
Each of
parti ha
these
una
single
testa.
parts has like a head,
Ognuna delle parti
and
ha
so
un
each
secondo
one of
me.
the parts has like a second me.
E finché tutti secondo
And
me vanno
so
più o meno d'accordo,
as long as all the
quando
according
il mio
to
secondo me
me
non va d'accordo col tuo
it
secondo me,
works with each other, then it works.
e
But
tutti
if
e due
the
vogliamo il bene
according to
del
me
noi,
doesn't work with your according to
la
me,
tendenza è creare
then
due
the
noi.
tendency is to create two separate me's,
E questo non funziona
and
niente.
this also doesn't work.
E quindi esiste un'attitudine
And
che è quella
so
di
there is an
cercare di
attitude of
ricordare che è un punto di
trying
equilibrio.
to
E qua c'è un'attitudine
to
di
remember that it's like
rispetto
some
insieme
balance that
verso
needs
la
to be
capacità
constantly
di
created.
ognuno
So
e di
like a mutual
cercare di
respect
unire
and
noi e creare
of
più
the
unità.
capacity of each one, and to
Senza
try
tanto
to create this
attaccamento a questo secondo me.
balance without a lot of attachment to this according to me, that it's one of those things that create a lot of
E senza
conflict,
perdere neanche
and without also losing the identity and the clarity of what is
Non so se è
according
chiaro
to me.
questo.
I don't know if this is clear.
Non è facile, sembrano
It's not easy,
contraddittori,
it's
in
not
realtà sono
simple, it seems
complementari.
contradictory, but actually it's
Che vuol
complementary.
dire
That means
siamo insieme.
we are together.
Io ho una
I
visione,
have
tu
a
hai
vision, you
un'altra.
have another.
Magari nell'unione di
Maybe
queste
in the
due visioni
union of
riusciamo
the
ad
two
arrivare a una
visions we
terza.
are able to get to a third.
Magari c'è un momento in
Maybe
cui
there is a moment
si
where
prova in un modo, un
we
momento
try
in
in a
cui si
way,
prova in
or
un
a
altro.
moment where we try
Io
in
non
another
devo
way. I
soffocare la mia
must not
visione e
suffocate my
cercare di
vision
risolverla
and
del
try
tutto,
to remove it altogether,
ma non devo
but I
neanche
should also
imporre.
not try to impose it.
Non so se è chiaro questo.
I don't know if this is clear.
E la prima parte è
And the
quella di
first
creare
part is that
uguaglianza, no?
of creating
Uguagliare se stessi con gli altri.
equal
Che il
equalness,
risultato finale è la tua felicità è tanto importante quanto la mia.
equality, and the
Bene,
result is
avviene
that your
quando
happiness is as important as my happiness, and
viene
that
poi che avviene questo
the good
scambiare
of the whole is as
e può
important as my
scambiare se
own
stessi con
good, and
l'altro.
this is exchanging
Non è un
ourselves
conflitto
with
di
the
idee.
other, which is
Noi
not
spesso
something like
evitiamo il fatto di
often we
scambiare
read
se stessi
the
con gli
fact of
altri perché c'è
exchanging
l'attitudine
ourselves with the other
di
as
metterci
an
nei
attitude of
panni.
putting myself in your
Non è
shoes.
quello.
It's not that.
Scambiare l'attitudine,
Exchanging
scambiare il
is
comportamento.
exchanging the attitude, the
Ed è quello
behavior,
nel quale
and it's
l'attitudine
that
che noi di
where
solito abbiamo
the
verso
attitude where
il
we
io,
usually have the for the
per
I and the
proteggere, per
mind, that
tenere
is to
cura, per
protect and to take
l'ossessione
care,
della
that
self-gratification,
obsession with
la
self-gratification, we
riversiamo ed estendiamo verso
direct
gli
it and
altri.
extend it towards the others.
Ossia, io sono ossessionato alla
That is, I am
gratificazione
obsessed
collettiva.
with the collective gratification rather than the
Prendo quella
self
stessa
gratification. I
ossessione e
take
la
the
vado
same
ad
obsession
espandere
and I go
verso
and
tutti.
expand it to the whole.
E prendo
And
quell'attitudine
I
di
take that attitude of
indifferenza
indifference, of
di importarsi più
not
di tanto
caring
verso l'altro
towards the other,
e la
and
direzione
I
verso
direct it
quell'ossessione
towards
dell'individuo,
that
che non vuol dire
obsession of
escludere
the I
l'individuo,
and the mind,
vuol dire escludere
which doesn't mean to
quell'attitudine di
exclude the I and the mind. It means to
ossessione,
exclude that attitude of
escludere
obsession with
l'attitudine di
self-gratification,
attaccamento e
that
attrazione
attitude of
verso l'io che non
attraction
esiste in un
and
contesto della
aversion
dimensione,
towards the I doesn't exist
che è più
in the
importante
context of the whole,
che è più importante dell'insieme.
that is more
Questo non
important
vuol
than
dire
the
vivere in
collective.
sacrificio,
This doesn't mean to live in the
è come anche a
collective.
partire di due persone
Also
insieme.
starting by just two people
Se io
together.
non prendo cura
If
delle
I
mie
don't take care of
necessità,
my own
la tendenza
necessities,
nostra
eventually I will
è
not be
questa
well
di
with
perdere.
myself, and this will also fall on the other.
Per questo io devo prendere
And so I must take care of my own necessities, I must take care of my health, I must take care of my needs, because if I'm not right, then this also falls on the whole of the us, whether it's just me and you or more broader.
Quindi ovviamente io devo prendere
And
cura,
so obviously I need to take care of me,
ma non
but
senza prendere cura
not
degli
without
altri.
taking care also of the
Non si può avere
whole.
una senza l'altra.
The two things go together. You can't have one without the
Quindi
other,
quando
actually.
parliamo
So
di uscire
when
dalla
we
zona di conforto,
talk
di
about getting
camminare
out
contro
of the comfort
quel
zone and
movimento
walking
distorto che
against the
purtroppo è
current
difficile, però
and to
non
put
facile,
effort on what is
uno dei
virtuous,
punti
but it's not easy.
fondamentali
One of the fundamental
del
points
sentiero
in the
Mahayana,
Mahayana path,
quello che
that
Buddha
is
studiava da
what
noi
Buddha
teoricamente,
transmitted to us, that we theoretically are part of,
è quello di avere uno
is
sforzo costante
that of having a constant
di
effort,
veramente
of
aprire
really
agli altri,
opening
uscire da
ourselves
questa
to the
ossessione
others and getting out of this obsession with self-gratification.
Qualcuno mi direbbe, però è difficile.
Someone could say, yes, but it's difficult. No, I would say, no, it's not difficult, more than that.
È faticosissimo,
It's extremely difficult,
però non è impossibile.
but it's not impossible.
Ed è faticosissimo per una
And
ragione.
it's very tiring for one reason.
Noi siamo
We are
profondamente
profoundly
condizionati
conditioned
ad agire in
to
questo
act
modo
in this way, obsessed with the I and the mind.
e viviamo e
And
cresciamo
we
in un
live and
contesto dove
grow up
questa
in
è
a
la regola.
context where this is the rule. Constantly and so on, then I don't want to be normal.
Io voglio essere
I
dall'altra
want to
parte,
be somewhere else.
io voglio camminare
I want to
contro
walk
corrente.
against the current.
E ripeto una
And I
volta ancora,
repeat
le
once
persone che
again,
io ho conosciuto
the
più
people that I've met that
equilibrate,
were the most
rilassate,
balanced, most
paci con se
healthy,
stessi
and
e
at
gli
peace with
altri,
themselves and the others
sono le persone con
were
più
those
amore,
that
più
had
altruismo,
more
più
love,
rispetto,
the
più
most love,
interesse,
altruism, affection towards the
che hanno
others,
saputo dare
that
importanza
knew
insieme
how to value
senza escludere nessuno.
the whole without excluding themselves.
L'esempio proprio
One
perfetto è Lama
important,
Gangchen Rinpoche.
perfect example for me is Lama
Rinpoche
Gangchen
tutta la vita
Rinpoche. Rinpoche,
ha
for
sempre
all his
dato
life,
priorità
he
all'insieme
gave priority to the collective,
e non ha mai
and
avuto, non l'ho mai visto per
I
un
never
momento
seen
un
him for
atteggiamento di
once like to have
sacrificio
like an attitude of
e non aveva
sacrifice,
nessun
and he had
problema nel
no problem
passarsi una
whatsoever
bella giornata
to
con
spend
gli
a nice
amici,
day and
con
to
gli
enjoy
amici,
something that he liked.
non c'erano
There
contraddizioni.
were no contradictions.
E qualcuno mi direbbe
And
sì,
someone
però
could say,
era
yes,
Rinpoche,
but that was Rinpoche,
una persona che ha un'attitudine
a person that
pacifica,
had like a peaceful
rispettosa,
attitude, respectful,
amorevole,
loving,
uno sforzo pazzesco,
tremendous effort.
capacità di mettere
He had
energia
a
con fatica.
capacity to put energy with
Capita
effort,
molto spesso
with
così,
effort because very
quando
often, yes,
porto
he was
come Rinpoche
tired.
sedersi a un
How
tavolo
many
con me.
times I've seen like Rinpoche
Poi
sitting there
una
and
curiosità, pochi
sleeping.
giorni fa ho letto
A
una cosa che
curiosity that I've read a few days
spiegazione
ago was an
tecnica di una cosa che
explanation
Rinpoche
of
disse.
something technical that
Parlava di un
Rinpoche did.
yogi negli anni
Was talking
60
about a yogi in the 70s.
che negli Stati
In
Uniti hanno fatto un po' di
United States,
ricerche
they made some research,
con questo
scientific
yogi
research
indiano.
with this
E una
Indian
delle cose,
yogi,
oltre a
and one of
tutte
the
le
things,
cose
putting on all
per
the
vedere l'attività
things
cerebrale,
to
così
see
via,
cerebral activity and so on,
rientrava in uno
he
stato
was
profondo di
getting into a profound
rilassamento,
state of
stato
relaxation,
di profonda
inducing himself in
relazione,
a state of
che
relaxation.
era come un
There was
sonno
like
molto
a
profondo
very
in
deep
cui
sleep
addirittura si
where
potevano
even
usare
he would start
delle
snoring,
attività
and
cerebrali che
the
lo facevano vedere un
cerebral
sonno molto
activities
profondo
would
e
show
quando
like a
finiva
very deep
questo lui
sleep.
si
And
ricordava
when
di
this would
tutto quello che era
finish,
stato
he
detto
remembered
intorno e di
everything
quello che
that was
accadeva in quel
being
momento.
said around and
E
everything
questo
that
viene
happened
chiamato
around.
sonno
And
yogico.
he was
E
talking about
dicevano
this
che
like the
questo sonno
yogic sleep.
yogico è quando il
And that
cervello
is
si
like when
riposa ma la
the
mente è
brain
sveglia.
is sleeping, is
Rinpoche
resting,
faceva questo,
but
gli ho detto
the
deve
mind
essere,
was
oltre che
awake.
una
And
cosa
Rinpoche was
incredibile,
also doing this. I've seen it
era,
many
certe volte
times.
era anche strano perché
Sometimes
entravi
was
lì a
quite
parlare
strange
con
because
lui
you
di
would
una
go
cosa
talk with
veramente
him, like of
importante
something really important,
e cominciavi a
and you would
parlare
start to talk, and at a certain point he would go like that,
smettevi di parlare.
and then he would stop
Non smettevi di
talking.
parlare.
And
No, 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 continua, continua.
when you stop talking, he would say, no, 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 continue, continue.
Dopo di un po' hai imparato.
And after a while, I had learned, and an interesting thing is that when you ended up those 40 minutes talking and
Lui
he
si
was
ricordava di
snoring,
ogni cosa e ti
he,
rispondeva
he
perfettamente.
remembered everything and answered perfectly.
Ed era la prima volta che ho visto,
And the
almeno
first
pochi
time,
giorni fa, ho visto
like a few days ago, I've seen an interview also talking about this thing, and there was like this explanation in the about the Indian tradition of the yogic sleep. That is when the brain is resting, but the mind is awake.
C'era anche la storia di Bhutan Tamche Khenpo.
There was also the
Lui di
story of
notte
Bhutan
dormiva,
Tancha
e mentre
Khenpa that
dormiva
during
memorizzava
the
testi.
night he was sleeping
Prendeva una
and
stanza grande
but he
con
was
2 copie di ogni libro,
memorizing the texts. So he had like a big
quando
room
fuori
and he would spread like 50 pages of papers all over the room.
e lui di notte
And
usciva dal
during
corpo,
the
quando il
night, he would
corpo
get out of the
riposava,
body
usciva
as the
dal
body
corpo
was
e
resting, and he
memorizzava
will
quelle
go there
50
and
pagine.
memorize
Si
those
svegliava al
50
mattino per
pages.
memorizzare
And
quelle
he
50 pagine. Poi
will
faceva così.
wake up in the morning by remembering everything.
Noi altro che memorizzare. Ripetiamo le
We
stupidate che
just
abbiamo pensato durante il
repeat
giorno.
all the stupid
Al di là di
things
quello.
that we
Ehm,
have done during the day, but aside from that,
Quello che volevo dire è che quando noi pensiamo a
what I
Rinpoche,
want to say is that when we
sì, dico c'era una
think
persona
about Rinpoche, we say yes, he was a balanced person, joyous,
aveva tanti
peaceful,
sforzi,
putting a lot of
cose,
effort
aveva
in
sempre
things,
incentivi, che
that was
sapeva
always
dare
kind,
priorità
that knew how
all'insegnamento
to give
senza
priority to the
senza escludere
collective
nessuno.
before the
E
himself
qualcuno mi
without
dirà sì, ma
excluding
quello è
himself.
Rinpoche.
And you will say yes, but that is
Perché
Rinpoche.
Rinpoche?
But then why Rinpoche came here?
Per darci l'esempio,
To give us the example,
per farci vedere quello che è
to
possibile.
show us what is possible.
Ed è proprio quello che
And
Rinpoche che noi dobbiamo dire,
it's
io
really
voglio
what
essere così, ce lo
Rinpoche
posso
was,
fare.
that we should say, okay, I want to be that and I can do it.
Perché se una
Because
persona che
if a
troviamo che
person
era
that we
equilibrata,
meet that is
gioiosa,
balanced,
l'esempio
joyous,
che noi
like an
vogliamo essere,
example of how we
che
want to
avesse
be,
un'attitudine
that had
costante
like an attitude that
egoista,
is
pensando
constantly
solo a se
selfish
stesso,
and
eccetera,
constantly thinking
eccetera,
about himself and
ecco
so on,
l'esempio, facciamo così.
that's the example we do like that.
Se essere in questo modo
If
veramente
being in
porta
that
uno
way
stato di
really brings
felicità,
like a
di
state of
equilibrio, di
happiness and
gioia,
balance and joy,
bene,
so on, then it's great.
ma la mia
It's
esperienza
welcome.
è che le
But
persone
my
più
experience
gioiose,
is
più
that the most
equilibrate, più
joyous
pacifiche,
and
più
peaceful
felici,
and
più hanno
balanced
vissuto,
people that
sono
I've
quelle
met
che hanno messo
are those that
energia
have put energy
nell'amore,
in the
nella
love, in the
fragilità, nel
stability, in
condividere,
the
nel
sharing, in the
offrire,
offering,
nel prendere cura del
in
noi
the
prima di
taking
tutto
care of
senza
the
escludere
us
nessuno.
without excluding the
Ed è
I.
quello
And
l'esempio che
that
dobbiamo
is the
mostrare.
example that we have always had and that we should follow.
E una delle cose che, scusate se
And one of
uso
the things
tutti
that,
questi termini,
sorry if I put
non
in
voglio
these terms, I don't want to
stigmatizzare, non
generalize,
voglio
I don't want
sminuire la
to
sofferenza di nessuno,
um,
assolutamente. Profondo
make
rispetto
the suffering of
per
each
quello che
one
dico.
look small. I have profound respect towards that.
Però molto
But
spesso io
very
penso e
often,
credo
I believe
che una delle possibili
that one of the
soluzioni
possible
per tanti
solutions
dei
for
nostri
many of
percorsi
our sufferings
è uscire
is
dal
to
io e
get
andare
out
verso
of
il
the
noi.
I and to go towards the us.
Tante delle nostre
Many
sofferenze
of our
sono a
sufferings
causa della nostra
are
ossessione
either
per noi.
caused by our obsession with the I,
Parte della depressione.
part of the depression.
Basta sentire un discorso
You
di
just need to
qualcuno che non
listen
sta
to
neanche
a
depresso,
talk by someone who is not well, who is depressed.
nostro proprio, non è che
Even
dobbiamo
our
andare
own, and we
lontano,
don't need to
figuriamo
go
quello
like
che
so
stiamo
far.
vivendo in questo momento.
We have
Di
already
solito
all had like
in
such
quasi tutte le
moments. So
frasi qui è
in
presente
in all the sentences,
io.
almost all the
Io
sentences
sono
was there.
stanco
The
perché
I,
io
because I am
lavoro,
tired,
perché io sono qua, perché
because
io sono
I
là,
there,
perché
I here,
perché io.
because me.
E quello che è
And
interessante
what
è che
is
quando noi
interesting
riusciamo a
is that
uscire
when we
dal
are
noi in
able to
questa
get
vita
out of this I
e vedere
and
il noi
to
come
see the
parte
us
di
and
noi
to
e
take care of the
offrire,
us and to
amare,
offer to the
quello poi
other,
va a nutrire
that
l'io
also nourishes the I
e ci fa uscire
and
da quel ciclo
gets us
vizioso.
out of that vicious loop.
Però non voglio aprire
But
questo
I don't
argomento
want to
adesso.
open this argument now in this direction.
Fatto sta
But the
quando
point
lo
is
sforzo entusiastico di cui
that
parlava
enthusiastic
Albagnano,
effort
lo
that we were
sforzo
talking about
entusiastico
becomes
doveva essere
enthusiastic
posto
effort
al
when
posto
it's
giusto.
put
Uno dei
towards
luoghi
something virtuous, and one of the places where we should put energy is where it goes against our habits, whereas for what is natural for us. And one of the fundamental things is to go towards altruism and to go out of selfishness. And we should put this in practice, not towards all the sentient beings. I use a bit of a strong term. Who cares about all the sentient beings? We should care about the person that we have in front, about the being that we have in front, and of those that we live in the daily life. Otherwise, we stay there like, may all the sentient beings, like a generalized thing. And then, when we are there in front, no, but I am good because all the sentient beings I care about them, excluding those that I have to deal with. No.
Si parte proprio.
We are really starting from that. It's really there that we have to transcend that attitude, unhealthy. And then from there it expands to all the beings with all the respect. I was saying, who cares about all the beings in the sense not to remain in something generalized that is not sincere and profound. We should start from the specific to go towards the general and not the other way around. Because to stay on the generalized, eventually, when we stay there, I really care about all the beings, but not to each one of them. What happens is that in these cases, it's because for us it becomes more important to be him or who loves the others rather than actually the happiness of the other. It's where I want to be the bodhisattva. It's not that I want all the beings to be well. And it's not that the path. And so, let's start from that, from our daily life.
È vero che viviamo in un
And it's true that we live in a competitive world. We live in an individualistic world. A world that often the point of reference of success is something extremely selfish.
Però abbiamo la libertà.
But we have the freedom of choosing. Do I want to follow or not? Does it seem coherent or not? What are my examples of life that I want to follow? And when I see someone that is well, it's like, okay, I see a person that is very sick and another person that is doing very well. Which of the two lifestyles should I follow? The one that is sick because it's more similar to mine, or should I follow the one that is doing well? I would say the one that is well. So when we see the conduct of who is well, that is what we should follow. The verse of the Guru Puja is talking about that. When we see the conduct of the Buddhas that operate for the collective good, I ask myself, what direction should I follow? And I repeat one last time, without getting into an attitude of sacrifice, we should create this equality. And at the beginning we should go a bit towards an extreme because we find ourselves in another extreme, so we need to find the balance. And the balance, you don't find it right away, it's like a pendulum, goes from one side to the other, and then bit by bit it finds a balance. Let's now make our dedications. I also wanted to make a special dedication for our friend here of Albagnano, Pasquale, that has left the body on Friday. Today there is his funeral. We also dedicate to him, to his whole family.
Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar chinle chokchur gepadang losan tempe drume sasum ki drove munsel taktu ne gyur chi kewakuntu yanda lama dang dralme cheki pela longche ching sadan lamge yenten rapt dorje change kopa nyur tobo sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan dele kshin ninsen takto dele kpe kuncho sumke chingi lo kuncho sumki ngodrubo tsol kuncho sumki tashi
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Buona giornata.
Have a good day, everyone.
Chi vuole passare per un breve saluto, benvenuti.